Hello and welcome to Assemblies of the World with me, Anna Isabel. And I'm so excited because today I am joined by Annie Barr, who has started the AB Health Hub. Hello, Annie.
Hello. Nice to meet you, Anna.
And you, we kind of briefly met yesterday, and here we are again today. And the minute I heard what you were doing, I thought, I want to know more. And I
Mhm.
and I heard enough to know that what you're doing needs to be known by everyone. So, what is the AB Health Hub?
Okay, so AB Health Hub was born about in 2021, end of 2021, yes. And basically, I had this idea of opening health hubs in various locations. And the health hubs would be a place where people can come and be listened to. So, for example, they would come, they would make an appointment, they would come, and we would look at their health issues. So, it's really mainly health issues we're looking at. So we want people to be able to look after themselves and to be able to be proactive because in the health service, which I've been part of for many years until about 20 years ago, um, there is this emphasis on dealing with things in a reactive way. And I really want to be more preparing people and for them to be proactive in taking care of their own health. And sometimes people just need a little help to do that, and they need to understand why they're doing it and what effect it will have. So it's really important that people, get that message across, and that we don't create this mountain of people who get dependent, but they become independent or interdependent, depending on what they need and what their needs are. So they know that there's somewhere they can go, they can get a health checkup, they can get an MOT, and we would encourage that at least a couple of times a year. We would like people to have an MOT every 6 months or so. Um, and, then we can look at plans and really look at, the strategy for either getting well or keeping well. So the hubs at the moment, they are in Jedburgh in Scotland, which is just the newest hub we've opened. There's one in Gateshead near Newcastle. There's one in London, and I am looking at opening one in Cork very soon. We're just looking for premises. So there's a lot happening, but there's a will with people to be able to really buy into this. They really want to be part of it, and to see things, take off and happen for them. So it's really good. Yeah. So that's the health hubs.
So, you were talking about this MOT. Who are people seeing when they come in? Are they seeing doctors? Are they seeing nurses? When people come in, who do they see?
They see a doctor if they want to see a doctor, or myself, I do a lot of MOTs for people, health checks, etc. They might see another professional, but the hub is all healthcare professionals, so doctors, nurses. We do have some phlebotomists, so people who just take bloods. We have a reflexologist, so we have a reflexologist on board, and if that person needs reflexology, then they can book in with them. So it just depends on what they've booked. They may well have booked an intravenous therapy session for B12, for example, or glutathione or vitamin C. And in that case, there'll always be two healthcare professionals present. So, a doctor or a nurse. And the nurses are very experienced. They've been, qualified for over 30 years. And so people who work with us are very experienced clinicians. And and the idea is to work with the local healthcare service and not against it, to add to the service, because we all recognize that, GP practices and primary care centres are sometimes just inundated with the amount of people that they need to see. And we want to be a service that complements that, that can take some of the load, if you like, as well. Because we do see people with acute illnesses as well. If somebody wants to, come with a cough or a cold or a urine infection or, something like that, then we take care of those things as well, because we can prescribe, medication if they need it. Although our number one line would be to try and get people to go down the more kind of natural pathway, with the emphasis being on good nutrition, vitamins, minerals, that type of thing. And we would encourage people to go down that path as part of the review or their MOT. We also do things like ear syringing. Now, there's a dire need for it right now. Lots of practices and GP practices have stopped doing it. So we find ourselves doing removal of earwax, ear syringing, and all means of other things. So yeah, so they see the doctor or the nurse, and they see a qualified professional, and they have a choice.
So there is an encouragement towards correcting health issues
Yes,
or balancing the body
yes,
at nutrition. And to that end, you provide intravenous vitamins. Did I understand correctly?
yes,
So
yes.
can you explain to people who are unfamiliar with this what that entails?
So there are very many intravenous therapies that can be used in giving people a much needed immune boost, energy boost. And that would just involve usually no more than an hour, but usually around 30 minutes. Inserting a Venflon into the arm, or butterfly into the a needle into the arm, and then putting up the drip over the next sort of 20 minutes, half an hour. So that would involve them coming in and, lying in a bed or a chair, and just receiving the therapy. And it's pretty painless, and it's very quick, and the results are really immediate. For some people, they're very immediate.
Having worked at a very high-end clinic in central London for a time, it was one of the most popular services that the clinic provided was exactly that. It was very expensive, and I'm just wondering, in terms how you're costing things and how people are, how within reach are your services to the average person?
Yeah, well, we don't charge anywhere near the extortionate prices that are touted out there. We just really want to cover our costs and pay the mortgage. And that's about it. So they're very reasonably priced. Now we do have sort of recommended retail pricing from some of the providers that we use for our intravenous vitamins. But we don't stick to them because the cost price is, maybe a quarter of the price that the sort of general public end up paying. And I want to make it available. So I want to make it available to all. And actually there's 20% of what we do is not charged. If people can't afford it, then they come. Or they put a donation in um, as well. So alongside what we do as a health hub, I have another company that I've just set up as a community interest company. And that's called Safe Hands. And Safe Hands is going to kind of try and provide well, two things: accountability for what the spend is in the NHS, and the other is the the proviso of career volunteer to career. So we will have volunteers come in, and they can do a program with us, because we're also a training centre. So we're an accredited apprenticeship, and also Scottish vocational qualifications. and we're a centre. So basically, what we're trying to do is bring people in to maybe think about a new career, or maybe they've retired and they want to come and just volunteer for a bit, or maybe they want to start off, so they've just left school, or so we're trying to liaise with the schools in order for those people that maybe want to do a health or social care career, they can come and get some experience with us, and they can see what it's like and also get a qualification at the same time. Or we can have them for, say, 6 weeks. And you know, if they decide, I've had enough after 6 weeks, I'm not very academic or whatever, just give them a certificate to say they've done this program, and they've got a certificate then. So there's that side, but also the other side, of course, is around the affordability. So we really try and make things affordable. For example, that ear syringing is £55. Probably and that's for, both ears or one ear, it doesn't really matter. And then if you come in and you have your ears syringed and by some can't get all of the wax out, when you come back, you don't have to pay again. So it's a one charge for maybe you could have 2 visits. Most people do have 2 visits for their ears. So we're trying to be reasonable. Most other organisations maybe charge about 70 or 80 pounds. So we're just trying to keep our costs down, so that it's affordable. Like I say, we'd never turn anybody away. So if they came and they would, needed something done, we would do it. Yeah. So
Well, this is exactly why I'm so excited about this initiative, is that you are really putting a great deal of thought into it. And um, the thought that people could, for a smaller amount than the amount that I've seen being charged for these vitamin treatments is just amazing. Um, you were talking about this MOT, and you mentioned that you have some phlebotomists there. So does this mean that you are also able to do blood tests? Are you able to test for vitamin and mineral deficiencies, etc.?
yes. So we work in 2 ways with bloods. Firstly, we have a point of care testing machine where we have several. So the testing machines involves a finger prick analysis of your blood. So you actually don't need a venipuncture, so you don't need to take blood from the arm. We can do in 53 different blood tests by doing that method. So it's a finger prick analysis. You get your results in 15 minutes. So you get your results while you're in your appointment, and while you're still there. And then we give you the printout and we give you the information. And one of the things that we want to encourage people is that you have your information with you. We don't keep it, bring it back with you when you come to your appointment, but it doesn't belong to me. It doesn't belong to our organization. It belongs to you. And that then really makes people take control. I tell them to get a folder, anything, and just put the medical information in it and bring it each time you come. But the blood tests are fantastic. So that the 15-minute ones, we can do your thyroid test in 15 minutes. We can do your iron levels in 15 minutes. We can do your HbA1c, which is a sort of 3 months glucose level over 3 months. We can do that in 4 minutes. So it's in a pretty accurate, they're as accurate as the labs. And then for the labs, there is sometimes you need to, what we would call spin bloods. So you need to centrifuge them. Now we do have a centrifuge, so that's good. But some things need to be spun and sent to the lab. So things like, for example, urine samples as well. We will send a urine sample off, but we can't do it I mean, we can test it's positive. We do urine analysis, but once we do it and we find you've got some, bugs in your urine, we need to know what those bugs are. And so we send it off then. That can only really be done in a lab. So, and we work with a lab in Teesside. So it's quite near where we are. And we get the results the same day that they're analysed. So it's usually get the results within a couple of days.
And you mentioned urine. What about the other end? Are you able to do analysis of that as well?
Yes, yes, we are. Yeah, we're able to do that. We would send that for example, just sent one recently to the lab for some parasites and things like that, just to see. So, because parasites seem to be, I don't know if they're appearing from nowhere, but it seems to be happening a lot. So we're aware of that, and we and some of the treatments, of course, will involve treatments for parasites, so.
Wonderful, because that's something that I have found. Let's say conventional medicine doesn't seem to pay a great deal of attention to parasites unless it's some of the more exotic types that
Yes.
they've been trained to spot. So I think that that's very useful to know.
I think as well, there's an emerging emphasis, and there should be, on microbiome and our gut. And our gut is responsible for a lot of what goes on. So we have to pay attention to it. And I think in medicine that's been neglected for a long time. But I think the science of the, issues with the gut and the microbiome and all the rest of it is happening now. And I think people are getting more aware of such things, and also, of course, things like, um, probiotics and, prebiotics and postbiotics. And I always encourage people to take the whole three of them, all in one, if you like. And for gut issues. I mean, not, obviously, I don't just tell them to go out and buy some, but, figure out what it is. But yeah, microbiome is really important, I think, and it is something that, is not really seen very much in you know, conventional medicine.
So you mentioned that this is something that is becoming more that we're gaining more awareness of the
Yeah.
gut health, etc., the microbiome. But I know that you also are using some very new technologies that are very exciting. Tell us about those.
Yeah, so I'm always been a techie person. I like tech. And so I think I probably got every medical gadget going, but not everyone, but I've got a lot. And so the I've been training for the past 18 months with the inventor of technology called quantum bioresonance frequency, QBT. And this is scientifically based. It is it's very been very well developed and researched, and there's a lot of evidence, and there's a lot of science behind it. So basically, what it is that um, I think we can all come to a realization these days that underlying a lot of physical illness is an emotional root, a root of something. And I like to call it what we do. I really like to get underneath a problem. And I've always been like that. I don't want to put plasters on anything. I want to get to the root, and I want to find out what it is that's causing this issue for this person. And that can take time. It doesn't happen in 5 minutes because you've got to gain trust. But with so for example, with counseling, okay, counseling is very good for some people, and I'm sure it works. But and I'm sure it's got its place. But some people, they can't talk, or they won't talk, or they just find it difficult. And I'm sure, as a hypnotherapist yourself, you'll understand what I'm trying to say here. That is, you talk about something. I'm a great believer in knowing that the more you talk about something, the more exposure it gets, but the bigger it gets, right? And if I'm sitting here telling you all of my woes about ABC, and I tell you the same thing every week for the next 6 weeks, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And with the QBT, there's really no need to talk. Um, there are two ways of doing it, and it's all about voice. So let me explain that. For me, when I, as a clinician, if I am listening to somebody's heartbeat, okay, I get a beat, and I'm listening for a sound. If I'm listening to somebody's chest, I'm listening for a different sound. If I'm listening to the abdomen for bowel sounds or anything abdominal, I'm listening, I get a different sound again. So sound is frequency, so they're all different frequencies. And so for me, frequency is quite natural in the sense that when I look for somebody, something wrong with somebody, I'm looking for the resonance. The resonance, is the chest resonant? Is it dull? Is it, so there's lots of different ways of doing this. And I think people just need to see, gosh, take a stethoscope, listen to somebody's chest, and you're going to hear different sounds wherever you are on that chest, and the heart and the lungs and whatever, so for me, frequency works. So when this therapy, when I do this therapy, what I ask people to do is I ask them to either record their voice for 3 to 4 minutes. Now, I find that you can do it remotely, and it works quite well, but it works even better if somebody is face to face. And I just walk out the room, I leave them in the room on their own, and they talk for 3 to 4 minutes, either about their childhood or something that's going on in their life, or they may want to just read a book and read it out loud. So the software from the program will cut off after 4 minutes, and then it will analyze and give 3 reports. And so the reports will say the emotional report, the mind report, and then there's a chakra report. And all of these are separate reports. And then the idea is to talk to the person about the reports and the results. Now, that can be done either in the same visit or another telephone call or another visit, and go through it and find out what the problem is for that person. What's the most significant thing that they're thinking of? And then when you go back to the database of the therapy, then the database will correlate the issue, the emotional issue, alongside a physical representation. So, for example, it may say that if you've got a thyroid issue, there's something about your voice because it's in that location. And very often it is, I'm not saying all of it is, but very often it is that people with thyroid problems maybe have lost their voice, or and I don't mean that physically. Sometimes it does happen physically, but I mean emotionally. They feel very reserved, or they can't speak what they really want to say, or they find it hard or difficult. So the machine picks all that up. Then it's analyzed. I analyze it, and it takes me hours to do this. So it can take a day or 2 days for me to do it well. And I'm getting quicker at it, but I do like to do it thoroughly. And then I then will give them make up a balance file, it's called, and it's a frequency file. And that file will then be sent to the person, and that person will listen to these different frequencies for 6 weeks. And then at the end of 6 weeks, we rescan. So we do another scan. We can either do a brain scan, they don't have to talk, or we can do the voice again, and then compare and see what's changed. And then people tell me what, I mean, I keep in touch with them during the program, and I tell them, ask them to tell me what's happening, and jot it down. And then when they come back to see me after 6 weeks, we can rescan, and then some people carry on, and some people, some people don't. But usually most people carry on because they find the difference is immense.
I find that very interesting on so many levels. So, on the one hand, you have the idea about the voice, and the voice I think is really important because it carries energy. And I have
Yes.
practice seen people's voices or heard people's voices change in the course of a session, and I always know how my clients are doing depending on how strong their voice is getting.
Yes. Yeah.
That's big
Yes.
help for me because so often my clients come in, in the first session, and they've got very small voices, they're very hesitant,
Yes.
and that can change within a session. It doesn't always, but it certainly changes as we continue to work together. And I think that that is just absolutely paramount. And when you were talking about people not always wanting to talk about things, well, it is true. People don't always want to talk about things, and I have to work quite hard with some of my clients, not just to get information. Although being an astrologer, I have their charts with me. That helps because where they're avoiding certain things, I can see it and I can just very gently go in that direction or find ways in. So that's helpful immensely. But it's the sometimes in the course of regression work that they don't want to go back to that initial uh, trauma. And so I have to find other ways of using imagery and talking about frequency. I use sacred oils as well. So
Okay.
that scent, that level, just to help open up the imagination and not have to do anything, but we work together to create a healing situation so that it's not going over the past that they can't bear to go over, but
Yeah.
bringing in healing in different ways. So this is also frequency. It's just that it's the smell side of things, and you're using sound, and of course music, we know, is hugely important.
Yes.
I'm absolutely fascinated by that it's analyzing the voice. And you talked about the fact that it also links up with the chakras, which
Hmm.
a lot of people are going to be very surprised by. So tell us about that.
Well, I'm not a chakra expert by any means, but the reports that we get back are very, they're very illuminating, shall we say. And obviously, it'll tell you about your roots, and it'll tell you, if there's something going on, maybe the solar plexus or, a heart chakras, and it divides everything up, and it shows you, where the issues are. And like you just said, you can direct it, you can pinpoint it, and you can go in the direction of the report and what the report says. And it's also backed up by the other two reports, which show you um you know the the bowels are the seat of the emotions. If there's something going on, there's something going on in the bowel area, then you kind of know that actually there might be something emotional, that's some emotional root that's happened. And also the other thing about the reports is it takes you to you know, it takes you through your life. And so you get to sort of 0 to 8 years old, and then you get from 8 to 16 and 16 to 32 and whatever it is, and it takes you through and it shows you in bar graphics form what is happening and what was happening during those traumatic years. And it doesn't tell you exactly what happened, obviously, but it will tell you how it's affected you. It will tell you, how much, what kind of a damage it's done. It will tell you that. Um, and it's very sometimes, like you were saying before, when people can't talk, they're still I call it, they're still little, they're still a child in certain aspects of their, does that make sense to you? There's still that child in there, and that child has never moved from
It's
um from
because
being
people,
7 years old or whatever. It's never moved. It's stuck.
my clients say to me, but how is it possible that something that happened so long ago could still be affecting me? Because they thought they had put it behind them,
Hmm.
and then we do the regression work, and there it is, that incident, and we work around it, and they feel better, and they say, "But how?" It's because for us, time, for the emotional self, time is irrelevant, and we are stuck in a moment in time. So this is where, the more kind of esoteric stuff to do with soul retrieval and other things come in. It's because the idea is that we do get stuck. We get stuck even when we think we are not stuck. So what we do, and bereavement is a classic one for this, where we learn to cope. So we get on with life. We move on. All these words that people use, it's all about coping. And what's not happening is processing of what happened and healing. And so this is my healing modalities address that, and so does this. And just a little words to say that for those who are a little bit more skeptical about the idea of chakras being a part of this healing process, remember that the chakras are meridian points of energy, and they are linked with different parts of the body. This is the principle on which acupuncture works. This is the principle on which acupressure works. And so this is a very ancient way of healing. So when we're looking at the chakras, we're also looking at the correspondence of the actual organs around that
Yes,
energy.
exactly. Yeah.
And that's very important for people to understand that.
Yes, it's it's vast, and I suppose it just puts the kind of a um the label, the science, the whatever around what I've already known, you know, in terms of what happens with people, and always being able to, I'm a Christian, so I come from a Christian perspective and a lot of things, so I will pray with people, I will know what's what the sense is, the spiritual part, because if we think that we're just a body, then we're lost. We're body, soul, and spirit, and that's it. It's one affects the other. And and really sometimes we just concentrate in medicine for decades and decades and decades. All through my training, we've concentrated on the physical so much, and the physical representation of whatever it is that is wrong. We call it heart failure, we call it whatever, we call it stomach ulcers, when we know that the root of it is stress. So a lot of things that we kind of have neglected over the years, as well. But yeah, I think it's an amazing journey to be on with people. I feel I'm on a journey with them. I'm not the be all and end all, and I'm certainly not the expert in every field. I am pretty good on vitamins and minerals, and certainly on B12 deficiency, which is a passion of mine. So I do know a lot about it, but there's some things that I don't know, and I'm learning as I go along, which I think is great because we can all learn together. I've got all the other people in the team as well. I've got nutritionists, for example, um, and my nutritionist is based in Devon, Dorset, sorry. Um, and so she does that online, consultations. And if people are obviously local to her, they'll go see her. But usually, she will do a 30-minute call, and that's free. And then make up a decision, make up some information, a decision about, and a plan about, what to do going forward, whether that person wants to continue or whether they just, that's enough for them, and that's enough information for them. But the goal always is to help people to get well.
One of the most important aspects for healing, it's like a prerequisite for healing, is that the individual feels heard by the practitioner, and that there is an actual rapport of trust in the practitioner. So it doesn't matter whether you're dealing with a doctor, whether you're dealing with a counselor, this is paramount. And so when you say that you are engaging with your patients, your clients, to the point where you are praying with them where appropriate and where they seek that. That is a level of care that is about connection, connecting with others. And that is of paramount importance and sadly lacking because in most medical contexts, because the body is treated as though it's a mere machine. And
Yes.
I'm sorry to say that this is prevalent everywhere.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's the loss of the sense of sanctity that's got us where we are.
And I think, to be frank, I think there's a bunch of psychopaths out there who are in health professions. There seems to be this lack of compassion, empathy. There seems to be this lack of I care about somebody, or that they just want to get you in and out in 2 minutes, and give you a little piece of paper and go to the chemist and get something, and that isn't care. That is not care, that is not compassion, and it certainly isn't the way to practice. And the whole system's based on it. And it's quite hard. So when we offer this alternative, people love it. They really enjoy it. I mean, okay, you have to pay for an hour's consultation, but our consultations are minimum an hour. A minimum. We don't have anything shorter, really. And if you're coming in for an IV infusion, a vitamin infusion, we'll have seen you beforehand for quite some time. You don't just come in and say, I want this, not get it. We don't do it that way. It's not to make you, feel better about yourself. I mean, obviously you do feel better about yourself, but it's not about that. You can go to aesthetics practitioners for stuff like that, but we want to be able to offer something that, is based on compassion and care. And I think that's what you've just said there, sanctity, respect and dignity. Um, and just caring for people whilst they're in your possession, for that hour. They've paid for you to be with them, um, however that is, and we need to be present with them. We need to be there with them when they need it. Because some people have so many. I mean, you'll know this, and you just come in, they'll have a bad back, and you know that it's not just a bad back. What's going on, Had somebody in yesterday, just wanted some blood levels taken. Okay, so what's going on? You know, why do you want the blood levels done? What's going on?
Yeah.
And out it comes, And people just need to feel safe. And honestly, I think if I want to say anything, it's to help people to know that when they come to us, it's safe. They will be safe. We're going to do nothing to get in the way of that. And that's really important to me.
Empowerment
Hmm.
and respect and
Yes,
privacy also, because you're not holding on to people's medical records
that's right.
and you are not putting them into a system.
That's right.
And I think that that is also hugely important because that has been lost in most other places. It certainly has been in the NHS. So I think that that's another real bonus about what you're doing is that sense of privacy as well. Because when you have that sense of privacy, you also have that sense of dignity and integrity. It's why is it that when people go into hospitals, they don't really want to be in a bay with lots
Exactly.
of people? They want to have that sense of privacy because that's paramount to healing as well. Because it's you saying to them, I see you, I see you.
Mhm.
That's vital. Whereas it doesn't matter how well-intentioned you are as a practitioner, if you are part of an inhumane system, which we know many of the nationalized health um, services around the world have become,
Yeah.
it it's it's soul destroying if you are a caring practitioner and you are in a system that is in effect dehumanizing
Mhm.
and treating everyone mechanically. So I think they just need to come and work for you, Annie.
I think they do. And one of the things that, you know, we with the vision, as you were saying there, our vision really is to obviously provide for people. But one of the things I really want to do is build a hospital that's a facility for people who will be cared for differently. And if they need hospital, then we need to have somewhere where people can come and be cared for and nursed and made well um and unfortunately um there are it seems to me there are factors at bay, powers at bay that um, don't want that to happen in terms of people, um, going to hospital um, and getting the care that they need and being in hospital for as little time as possible. Um, and it, and all this, what went on over the last 2 or 3 years of people, I mean I just it fills me with despair. I don't get despairing much, but my goodness, when people were dying without their relatives there, people were dying on their own, and these you know so-called health professionals and carers were just acting like they were psychopaths. They had, they just didn't have any compassion at all, and they were following a regime of some sort, and it was dreadful to watch and dreadful to hear about, and you know, we want to provide somewhere. So the vision, maybe is to it certainly provide one hospital. But it would be great if there were many hospitals that were just very different, built very differently, and built on the principles of what the vision is to really care for people and to to get them well when it's needed, because sometimes we do need a hospital, sometimes we do need a hospital, um but lots of things can be done at home. And the other part of this is empowering people to do things at home. I have, with the help of social services, provided a care package for my family for the last 10 years. And I employ my own staff, so I don't get the budget because I choose to subcontract an organization that manages the budget, but the budget is there. We get given the budget, and the care staff do they come in when it suits my family. It's not one of these coming at 8 o'clock in the morning, get 15 minutes. Come on, get up, get your clothes on, get washed, get dressed out. There you go. It's not like that. It's a personalized service, and it doesn't cost any more to do that. It's just that the system and the people in the system make an awful lot of profit out of it. And and if families were given the budgets themselves to do things themselves and get people to employ them, which I've done for 10 years, and I'll tell you, I've still got the same staff that I had 10 years ago. So they stay, you know, they enjoy it, and they become part of the family because there's always that professional distance. But I give them a bonus every Christmas, a decent one, that they wouldn't get in the system. I give them Christmas off. They had never have to work Christmas or New Year. I always take over the care, if I can, and I haven't not done that in 10 years. So there are different ways, and I remember my mum, she had dementia, and she went in, and we had to eventually put her into residential care because she was quite violent at the time. And so she went into a residential care home, and I employed a support worker to go into the residential care home to take her out for coffee, to take her shopping, to take her to, meet some friends, to get her hair done. And they were like, they couldn't believe it. This is 2013. They couldn't believe it. And they were saying, well, why do we need? Well, this person isn't there to do the basic care because that's your job. But this person is there to come and collect my mum and take her out and about. And she was the worker was employed for, I think it was 16 or 20 hours a week, and that's what she did. And she loved it, and it was one-to-one, it was personal, and it was funded. But well, I did fund it, we did fund it, but it was fantastic. And sometimes we just got to about care and healthcare, we've got to just think outside the box a little bit differently. But I remember them saying, oh, they got used to it in the end, though. They got used to this person coming in. So
Well,
fascinating.
thinking outside the box is exactly what you are about, and your wonderful hubs. And so, just a reminder to everyone that they are called the AB, it's abhealthhub.com. And I will be putting a link to that in the description box. Annie, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much for taking the opportunity to interview. It's been lovely. Thank you so much, Anna.
And thank you all for watching. And I believe that I have many more wonderful and exciting initiatives to tell you about in the near future. So do subscribe and keep a lookout. Until next time, goodbye.